is exactly as it was all those years ago.
Sharp right and left corners.
There have been happenings here as long as the track has been here. It's still kept its heart and soul.
Into the S's and off the course. That's designed to keep the car on.
Closely related to Lime Rock Park is Sam Posey.
As a result of going up and down the bump. And really strong in the handling department.
Ricky Walter, he's got it. There's never coming back.
Actually spin the tires over those bumps until they
The track is the final arbiter of things, and it makes it very special.
Of America's well-known circuits, there's about a half dozen that stand out as different from the rest. Constructed in the 1950s during the racetrack building boom, courses were carved out of mountains and hillsides from California to Connecticut. And since 1957, the mile-and-a-half bull ring known as Lime Rock Park has been a proving ground for some of racing's most famous names. Paul Newman, Sam Posey, Roger Penske, Skip Barber. Motorsports royalty use Lime Rock Park to measure their progress for decades. GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends celebrates that rich history of Lime Rock and of our generation, bringing focus to the cars that shaped our history. Welcome to Lakeville, Connecticut, and Lime Rock Park and GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends. Hi, everybody, and good morning. On a beautiful Saturday, August 17th, Kyle Heyer joined by Greg Kramer for one of my favorite events every single year, celebrating modern tuning era from the 1980s to now. Greg, welcome aboard.
Thank you, and this has been a long time coming for me. I've been here a lot, of course, over the years, especially with ALMS and Trans Am, but I had to miss the first two of these Circuit Legends, and I am so glad I was able to make it this year. It has immediately become one of my favorite events. The celebration that you talk about, and you heard the words of the legendary Sam Posey there, and I love that last line, the track is the final arbiter, and no matter what you do from a driving perspective, it's always going to be the track that determines what you're doing, and this one is special. And the last thing to point out right now about this track, if you drive any of the roads around here, you're essentially driving this track.
It's built into the hillsides and not on top of it. I think that's the beauty of it. But of course, GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends is brought to you by Falcon, the official tire of GRIDLIFE Track Battle, and NOS Energy, the official energy drink sponsor of GRIDLIFE and the title partner of the NOS Energy Track Battle Time Attack. And Greg, this mile-and-a-half racetrack is so steeped in history, and it's 7 corners. It looks simple, but it is not. It's easy to drive, hard to master. Take me through a lap here at Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, you can get to 95% here really easily. That last 5% comes with a lot of nuance. The only real straight here, the best passing opportunity into Big Bend there, turns 1 and 2. It folds back on itself. It's more than a 90 or a 180. It's almost a 200-degree corner. Then into the lone left-hander, and you don't worry about the setup of that left-hander at all. You want to maximize the car's performance in the right-handers. Now that backstretch used to be No Name Straight. Now another legend that spent a lot of time here, Paul Newman. It's named after him. Turn 5, it is a very abrupt uphill, and you catch air if you're in a really fast car over the end of that. Then you go through the very fast west bend, and then you drop again dramatically into the downhill or diving turn, as many call it. Huge compression at the bottom. You've got to get that turn right for a number of reasons. One, if you're looking to pass somebody into turn 1, you need to get through the diving turn well. If you don't, you're going to get overtaken probably, and if you really mess it up, there's a couple of barriers that are waiting to welcome you. So one of the trickier corners in North American real estate for racing.
And it all happened in under a minute here at Lime Rock. That's what's the beauty of it. We go from the longest track on the calendar, Road America, at 4 miles long, to the shortest 1.5 here at Lime Rock Park. And we run the old school uphill, Greg. No chicane. This is the classic course, as it was designed, but we've got a very special pace car out front again, and it's part of our pace car program. This event celebrates modern tuning culture and the cars that inspired our generation, Greg. And the pace car here is a gold Nissan GTR owned by Carlos Alvarez, and the GTR was one of those Japanese legends that we saw the Gran Turismo themed track map. That is a car that everybody aspired. that was their trophy car, their poster on the wall.
Yeah, that car is just revered, isn't it, in so many ways. And we also saw the shot, that sort of high shot with the Berkshire Mountains. I mean, this is pretty, special real estate here. And when they decided to build this track, you knew it was going to be a big success because this is a racing-hungry area.
Well, this morning we've got GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Race 2 coming up, and because we had over 60 entrants here this weekend, we can't put them all on the track at once. So this is our B race. Of course, we split the field in two. We run 2 races back-to-back. The slower of the 2 groups runs first. The faster group runs in second. So we got 2 races coming up, but they're both considered GLTC race number 2. And Greg, it's Colton Wade up on pole for this one. Had an incident in race 1. Drops him right into the front row for this second race alongside Sam Scott in that yellow NC Miata.
And starting third is one of the veterans in the paddock, the 212 of Andy Smedegar, developing this car. Starting fourth will be the 155 of Michael Pagano.
In 5th place, it's the 105 Mazda RX-8 of Brennan Ganem, and Scott Robertson starts 6th in the 213 with Thomas Moss and Zach Lavoie sharing that 4th row.
And then starting in the 5th row on the inside, in 9th, the number 8 of Jeff Wasilko, and then in 10th, the 65 of Eric Thompson, who was really quick yesterday, but had a mechanical issue.
Yeah, it looks like he's out there. They didn't really know what it was last night, but it seems like they've got it sorted. Tony Barber rolls off in 11th in the number 714 Porsche. Louis Chatroop starts 12th in the 26 BMW. Azim Al-Azira making his first start in the 992. Starts 13th. David Rudzinski in the EK Civic starts 14th.
Starting 15th in the number 84 is Thomas Lathrop. Starting 16th to 25, Nick Fuller. 17th to 179 of Pat Huxley. And starting 18th to 161 of Larry Luck.
And it's Eddie Nakato rolling off 19th. Lisa Keys would have started 20th, but her issue yesterday was a catastrophic engine failure, so she will not start this race. Jose Santa Cruz starts 21st. Cindy Picotte starts 22nd. Matthias Arias 23rd. And Kevin Zhu starts the tail end of B after failing the dyno test yesterday, unfortunately. So he is P24, bringing up the rear of this field as the lights go out on the Nissan GTR pace car, which means this time through, Greg, we get our first green flag of the day.
And let's watch Zhu from the back, as he qualified and finished 5th in that race yesterday, and then, as you said, had a problem on the dyno, and he's going to be a missile coming up through this field as we get ready to go. There's that diving turn. It's easy at this speed.
It is, but next time through, they'll be doing triple digits down the hill. And we're about to do triple digits on the front straightaway. GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends, the celebrations of all things four-wheeled and fast. And here comes the field, 24 cars deep. Race 2B for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup at the famous Lime Rock Park. Here we go. Green flag and racing at LRP. In trouble for the pole sitter. Colton Wade does not go, and they're 3 wide down the front straightaway. Tony Barber's in the grass. Sam Scott leads into turn 1.
Yeah, clearly Colton Wade, just the car laid down on him completely here. Great driving and evasive driving. Nobody contacting him, and everybody so far getting through. Some great battling there for that 4th spot right now. 2-3 cars. Oh, and somebody has looped it and come across to the inside at the exit of Big Bend.
That's Louis Chatroop in the 26, so he's gone around there. Scott Robertson and Eric Thompson are side by side. The 65 pulls through to the lead, but it's Andy Smedegar trailing Sam Scott to the uphill.
Yeah, and Smedegaard, you knew in this category was going to be pretty stout here, and he just continues to work and develop on this car. Obviously, if he was in one of the ASM S2000s that they've worked on for years, he would be in that A group and flying right now. But he's okay with this. He wants to develop this car, make it happen, and get this car up to it as we are going to complete our first lap here in our B race. And as you said, just an absolutely superb launch by Samuel Scott. Smedegaard sitting there in second. Then Pagano in third, and Eric Thompson up into 4th, and Zach Lavoie 5th. That's going to be a great battle for those 2 guys.
I think so. And that 65, he was a front-running car yesterday before he had his mechanical problem, so I'd anticipate him being very, very quick. And once you have an issue like that, Greg, there's so much drive to move forward.
There is. It just ultra motivates you, no question about that. And he's going to get after it here. But Zach Lavoie in that B race yesterday came from 26th to 11th. Had an absolutely stellar drive in a car he doesn't drive much. So that says an awful lot about what Zach was up to here this weekend.
Good news, Louis Chatroop and Colton Wade are back rolling, so their issues are both resolved as we get a look here at the battle for third between Michael Pagano and that Japanese market BMW hatchback, a really interesting car. It's got a paddle-shifted gearbox, which you could think would be an advantage here, especially when you're spending so much less time shifting the car. And he's had trouble getting it running smoothly, but here he is third, but on defense from Eric Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson is on the move, no question. And Scott had fast lap on that first outright race lap, but I think Thompson's going to be making a play for it here in pretty short order. And there he is coming up on the back of Pagano. And, you know, one of the things, if you do run one of those paddle shifts in this class, you have to carry some extra weight. And on this track, that weight makes a heck of a difference.
Yeah, I think the difference is that the extra weight only comes if it's an aftermarket sequential, which I believe in this car, it was part of the original OEM package.
Okay, so
I
it's
don't know
OEM.
that he's carrying that extra weight. And that is an advantage in some cases.
Absolutely, it would be.
So he's defending for third, but Andy Smedegaard keeping Sam Scott honest there, 9/10 between them. But this is the battle for the last step on the podium here, Greg.
Yeah, and this is crucial. Top 5 will advance to the A race for race 3, those doubleheaders. So pretty crucial what's unfolding here. Here is really the telltale battle. Lavoie and Robertson are having a really stout battle for that final transfer spot, currently held by Lavoie. Look at this, Thompson looking to the inside. Is he going to straight line to the apex? I think he's got it.
And he's through. He led at the stripe.
Oh.
A big wiggle into turn 1, though. Can he keep the car under control? He does, and he'll tuck back in for the tail end of Big Bend, and he's got third place away. And Robertson got back by Lavoie there.
So that's huge, too, for Robertson, obviously. That's that last transfer spot, if you will. But Thompson, you just knew he was going to have the bit between his teeth after being so fast yesterday in this Celica and then having that issue.
There's a little puff of smoke out of it, out of turn 3. I don't think it's a big deal. Sometimes cars will just do that when you give it a nice, good shift. But with those issues yesterday, you have to wonder if there might be something amiss still, but it's not slowing him down at all.
No, and I'll tell you what, for that Lavoie-Robertson battle, in pretty quick order here, Ganem in that 105 is coming up and is bringing Moss in the 515 with him. Look, it's 2 abreast in 2 spots here, 2 rows of 2 abreast. Look at this. This is phenomenal racing.
This is fun stuff. This is pretty deep in the field here. That is, I think, Nick Fuller in the 25. He's moving over and allowing the 205 car through. That's Matthias Arias, who's new to the series. And looking back with the Jose Santa Cruz and some others. But that was a fun little scrum there for about a lap or 2. And Smedegaard has not been able to keep pace with Sam Scott, who has now established a 1.6 second lead.
And we've got our zoo watch going here, and he's up to 12th already and really throwing some laps down. So he's going to be up and playing for the top 10 here in short order.
So now Lavoie's got Brennan Ganem behind him, who's making his first start in GLTC this weekend in a Mazda RX-8, which is a car we don't see a lot in the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Series. Those are a great balanced chassis, though. They come with a Wankel engine from factory. You see a big cloud of the curb there through West Bend.
Exactly.
And Thomas Moss drops the tire there at the exit of West Bend, but keeps it on the road.
Look at that, the front end chatter going down into that first turn by the number 85, and watching Sam Scott leading this one. Now he's going to be dealing with some traffic as he's catching the back of the field. I think this is the 120 of Cindy Peacock, and doing a nice job just leaving that door open a little bit, letting him through, didn't impede him at all.
And that is going to work out in his favor now as he tries to accelerate away from Andy Smedegaard in the 212, which is a K-Swap Subaru BRZ or Scion FRS or Toyota GT86 or whatever you want to call it. It's a little bit of everything coming, and it's got some Honda in it too, so throw that into the mix as well.
All right, sort of a Frankenstein.
It's got an identity crisis going on under the hood.
I don't know what I am, but I'm quick.
Yeah. Down the hill into the compression, and this is such a fast corner. And when you get down to the bottom there, Greg, you have to be ready for that compression to grab the car. And if you're not fully committed, I heard drivers talking about it last night. They're looking at the bridge at the end of the front straightaway when they come down the hill, and they're saying if you're not looking that far ahead, you've already missed your apex.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to super early eyes up. Going through that corner would be very, very. And the thing is, if you're running really quick, you're counting on that compression. You don't just have to be ready for it. You're throwing it down the hill faster than it really should go, with the belief that that compression is going to catch me at the bottom if I've judged it right. Nice move here down the front straight, 243. That's Kevin Zhu continuing his march toward the front right now. He's got to be knocking on the door of the top 10 right now. In fact, 11th, and I think he just went by Rudzinski. That should put him in 10th.
Great climb for him. He's still got some work to do as Sam Scott leads the way. This driver, he's got a lot of experience in iRacing. He's one of the drivers that will join us in our kind of winter sim racing championships, and one of the first tracks that you drive on when you get the iRacing service is right here at Lime Rock Park. And everyone that runs iRacing has run thousands of laps here, so you've got the experience on the laser scan configuration of this track that will help you in a moment like this. As Scott Robertson is going to move by Pagano for 4th.
Yeah, he'd already got Thompson's dropping. Thompson is falling down just a little bit. Pagano diving to the inside. And Scott Robertson doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And in fact, what he teaches new drivers coming into GLTC, leave room when that car's got overlap. And believing in that, the old adage, the worst thing that can happen if you leave a car enough room is you're going to have a great race.
And that they did. And you're right, Thompson has dropped now to 5th place. So again, the pace has seemed to drop out of that car a bit. And Zach Lavoie has still got Ganem and Thomas Moss tucked in behind him. So that's a 3-horse race for 6th place at the moment.
It's going to be interesting here. Zhu right now he's 6 seconds adrift of Leonard, who's another 6 seconds adrift of Moss. So that's 12 seconds Zhu somehow has to make up if he wants to get into that potential scrap for a top 5. He's got a ton of work to do. He's going to throw everything at it to be sure, but Robertson having a really impressive race here.
Yeah, he moved up into a podium spot here and should be a pretty quick lap for him. Not his personal best, but not bad either. But that 3-car race for 6th is going to get interesting with that big M3 out front with Zach Lavoie behind the wheel. And this is a car he hasn't raced a whole lot here in this series. I've seen it before when he raced it down in Alabama in the offseason with an ASM track day, but I don't think I've ever seen it in Touring Cup just yet. So he's got his S2000 ready for a Sunday Cup competitor that's going to take it. Ganem, big slide there at turn 4.
Boy, yeah, that 515 of Moss just took a big look, but realized that slide wasn't intentional. That door might close. Wisely backed out of it just a little bit. But that's going to allow Leonard. That's going to cost him a little bit of momentum. And this track is so momentum-centric that any little lift like that, any adjustment, these aren't 800 horsepower, thundering cars, so it takes a little bit longer to build that momentum back, and it can cost you, and that can let another competitor right up onto you here. And look at this, Robertson, Pagano, Thompson. Looks like Thompson's recovered a little bit. Not sure what happened, but he's now starting to attack once again on Pagano.
Has found some legs under him here for the last 5 or 6 minutes of this race, and again has Pagano check in the rearview mirrors there. I love this touring car style build, and the first thing I said to him was, this looks like something straight out of the BTCC. He says, well, that's what I was going for. He nailed the look of this car. Again, that Japanese market right-hand drive, sequentially transmissioned BMW. Look at this fight. Tony Barber's back here. Little lunge into turn 1. That's not going to play. Ooh. That was never going to work.
Yeah, Eddie Nakato just thinking about it, and that door closed, and he wasn't there. And he did the gentlemanly thing, just eat that curb, get over behind it, and he was lucky on that grass. He didn't just slide right back into that pack. You got to be a little careful about that.
Yeah, Jeremy Zeitler on the outside there in the number 11, and just behind him they've got Jeff Lasilko, who's making his first start in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. That might be Thomas Lathrop back there in the 84 as well. He's got another black BMW. As Rudzinski holds back Nakato here through West Bend. And there's a wing on that Civic, and the BMW has no aero at all, so they're going to handle very differently on either end of the racetrack. But not having a wing will pay off down the straightaway here, Greg.
Exactly, and you can see moving over to try and not let him have a draft. But on the other hand, without that wing, he's got really good straight line, and he almost just went around the outside. Oh, and the problem here, that's the 105 of Brendan Ganem, who's running right up in that battle for the top 5.
Yeah, so that looks like a motor issue to me.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of smoke coming out the tailpipes of that car. There's a standing yellow flag at the exit of turn 1, and the racing will continue around the course with the exception of that corner, as Rudzinski has got his mirror still packed full of, actually that's Alariza, the 992 BMW just behind him. as they come up over the crest here at West Bend. And we've got a couple minutes left, so in theory, a few more laps still on the table, provided we don't have to go full course for any sort of fluid on the track.
And let's hope. It's good stuff here. And, of course, that advances Zoo now up into 9th. And he basically now is within 4/10 of Moss. So he's really caught almost that battle for that top 5, but he's running out of time.
Notice that Smedegaard gained some ground on Scott.
Yeah, he's trimmed that back down to under 2.5, hasn't he?
I wonder if that was the traffic at play there, or if maybe Andy's finding some more pace in the closing moments. This big smoke out of the left front of that car, he's compressing it enough to cause some tire rub. But look at all the traffic ahead. They've come back around to the tail end of the field here, Greg, and it's not 1 or 2 cars, it's 5 or 6.
No,
this could change the game.
That's a big chunk of cars, absolutely. And oftentimes, you try and read the traffic so you catch them at the right spot. You slip through at a time when your competitor that's chasing won't let you through. But on a track like this, sometimes it's just random luck where you catch them. And this is so serpentine. We've talked about it. You catch it in the wrong spot, you're going to get parked and lose a lot of time.
Yeah, blue flags in GLTC are not compulsory. You don't have to do anything. It's just an advisory flag that there's a faster car approaching. But Sam Scott right up the uphill is behind Louis Chatru. That held him up a little. Smedegaard, big wiggle at the top of the hill. He is charging. He knows that this is his opportunity with the traffic on the horizon.
Yeah, he was sensing big opportunity there, just trying to flow as much speed. Now he's diving down, get back over, then get that car loaded down again. That's always a heart-in-the-throat moment when you're inside trying to make a pass going down the diving turn, because if you don't get back out just a little bit, odds are you're going to arc right off the track. And one of those cars up in front of these guys really putting some smoke up, and that didn't look like it was just body rub on the tire. That looked like some other form of smoke.
Yeah, that was, I think, Arias in the 205 Integra, but no white flag, so it's at least 2 laps to go. They are going to have to deal with more traffic, and Smedegaard has cut this lead down from 3 seconds down to just half a second here, and we could be 2 to go next time by.
And I think Leonard in the numbers 37 just went by Lavoie and picked up the 6th spot, so he's having a really, really strong drive as well.
Sam Scott, where do you go? This is Nick Fuller. He had come down pit lane. Oh, sorry, that's the 39, actually. That's not Fuller. That's Chris Schooler. He's going to squeeze through at West Bend and on through past that lap traffic.
Yeah, but look how much ground now Smedegaard's made up. And Schooler, he went through, and Schooler just recognized it at the last second and opened that wheel back up a bit. And here is Robertson trying to hang on for that final podium spot here over Thompson.
They'll have 1.5 miles left to sort out this fight, because it is the last lap here at Lime Rock Park. Sam Scott leads. He gained some ground there with some traffic between himself and Smedegaard, and he clobbered the curb at turn 2, trying to find some speed here on this last lap.
And right now, for Pagano, sitting in 5th, he's got about 4 seconds back to Zach Lavoie, and top 5 will advance into the A race for race 3. So look at this big outside sweep. Smedegaard not giving it up here. But I think Andy's also pretty smart to know, look, I'm in an advanced position here. I'm going to get 2 points, because you get 3 to win, 2 for second, 1 for third here in terms of the championship. I'm going to get 2 points. He's not really a championship player, but he knows he's locked into that advance.
Out of the final corner, turn 7. There's a ton of traffic ahead. Another lap might have changed the outcome of this one, but it will not. Checkered flag. Sam Scott wins GLTC Race 2B at Lime Rock Park. Smedegaard second. Robertson is a long ways back, but he will come home in 3rd. As to the rest of the field, they almost have a whole other lap to go still with how far up Sam Scott and Smedegaard were.
Yeah, those 2 guys were just sort of in their own class at this one, weren't they? Really put on a great race here. And who knows what would have happened with Colton Wade if he wouldn't have had whatever that problem was. He got it going again, but it lost so much time.
Yeah, and everyone did a great job on the start there not to pack in behind him. And Kevin Zhu almost got by Lavoie. Look at the margin there, just 200th of a second at the stripe. So Lavoie 7th, Zhu 8th, Moss and Radzinski are going to finish 9th and 10th as the rest of the field comes back around to complete their first race of the day. There's still 2 more for this group later this afternoon. And Radzinski, he hasn't gotten 10th just yet. It's going to be a drag race to the stripe. Here it comes. That's Eddie Nakato to the stripe, side by side. Radzinski by a nose. By how much? A 10th of a second.
10th of a second. That is such great racing. And that's the thing about this series. It doesn't matter where you are. You find 2 or 3 people that are racing your pace, and you get into these wonderful battles. And let's give another big shout, not just for the win for Sam Scott, but you know how fast Kevin Zhu is, and that charged through the pack. And Scott, though, got fast lap. He was hooked up.
That was quick. Sam Scott, Andy Smedegaard, Robertson, Thompson, Pagano, your top 5. Brian Leonard, Zach Lavoie, Kevin Zhu, Moss, and Rudzinski make up your top 10. Greg, fun fight other up at the front.
Oh, it sure was. Eddie Nikado just missing that top 10 by a 10th, as you said. Colton Wade rebounding from pole after the problem to 12th. Alazira in 13th, 14th. Barber, Zeitler, Lathrop, Wasilko, Luck, Arias, and Schooler make up the rest of your top 20.
And then Louis Chatroop, saw him spin out in the early moments of that one. Hope there wasn't any contact. I don't see any damage on the car, so I think he got away with it as we look down the rest of the order. But that was a fun one. Sam Scott. Let's have a look at the initial start. Colton Wade, slow, and look how wild this was. 4 wide, Tony Barber in the grass trying to find a way around. It was just very tight quarters there leading into the first corner. And there's Chatroop all on his own, Greg. Just got loose, got in the dirt maybe, and spun it around and just kissed the wall.
Just, yeah, that wasn't very passionate kiss, was it? He was fine. It just, that was more of a peck. And he got going again. And then Thompson started this great charge, getting by Pagano. But look at him fighting that car under load there. And just some fabulous racing all the way through the pack, really.
Yeah, there's 25 and Nick Fuller. He ended up coming down pit lane as Robertson made an outside move through turn 1 at Big Bend to get around Michael Pagano. Brandon Ganem, big moment there ahead of Thomas Moss. And then this fight, this got really tight. Tony Barber and the 162 of Eddie Nikado. Jeremy Zeitler trying to squeeze around the outside. And then they got continued there into the right-hander onto the Paul Newman straight.
Yeah, just side by side. You could do that so much on the straight. Then later on in the race, big plume of smoke out the back here. Pulled off into a fairly safe spot. Racing was able to continue. And there you see Sam Scott getting the win. Smedegaard in second. Robertson, Thompson, and the last guy to move up to the A group for round 3, Michael Pagano.
Yeah, that's a nice job there by Pagano. And I had mentioned that he'd had trouble keeping that car reliable. He ran at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and Midwest Festival and really didn't get a lot of laps at any of those events. But here today, he's been doing a really nice job. And actually yesterday as well, just keeping the car running and moving forward. And now he'll be advancing to the A group for race 3. Of course, we're not done with race 2 yet. We've got our A group, the faster of the 30 or the 60 or so cars. They'll head out on the racetrack here in just a moment's time. And yesterday, Greg, we were treated to some pretty exciting action in that one, but a lot of attrition by some fast cars as well.
Yeah, that was surprising, to see some of the cars. But, you're under such load here, and you really don't use the brakes much here. And what that means is, obviously, you always want to be in a gear where you've got the revs up pretty high, so you've got good response. You can balance the car on the throttle when you're doing that, but it just means you've got that engine at full rev an awful lot around this track, and that'll take a toll.
It will, and I think we saw, Paul Darling, Eric Cattell, also, they had their issues, but they're going to be sorted. The good news for them is that we sort our grid for race 2 by the best lap from race 1. So while Eric didn't get a great lap, he's going to roll off, I think, 12th for this one. It's not like he's going to have to start at the complete tail of the field.
Right.
His concern is the championship battle. He came here knowing that he had to get a couple of wins to challenge Luke McGrew for this series title, and he gave up a race win earlier this weekend, and he can't afford to keep doing that if he wants to catch Luke by the end of the season.
And did you ever get final word on what happened to Paul Darling? Last time I checked in with him last night, they were still trying to figure out what happened on that car.
I don't know that I got exactly what happened, but it was something with a power wire or electrical or something. They'd ordered a part, and they were hoping that they could get it sorted. And I guess the question is, did we see him roll out on the racetrack? Because if he didn't, I'd imagine that they haven't found the solution for it yet.
Boy, I hope so, because I really think the way he was driving, the way we saw him in top practice, great qualifying run, the way he was closing in that race, I really thought, there he is, that gray with the red highlight, number 55. I thought he had a really good shot of that win. When I talked to him afterwards, he went, so did I. I thought we were pretty well set. But there is that absolutely beautiful K2 number 41 of James Houghton. Comes down from Canada. This is one of his nice close hauls, if you will. And he loves this place. And this is a track, lots of tracks, the front engine car will struggle a little bit because you're asking everything in the front wheels. But But this is such a momentum track, and if you just get that car rotated a little bit, you can carry great speed here, and it doesn't hurt the fronts that bad. So he was really effective in race 1. I expect he would do the same thing in race 2.
I would expect so. So going back to the championship battle, we talked about how Eric might have missed an opportunity yesterday. James Houghton did not miss an opportunity. He won another race. It's the second of the season, but more importantly, it's going to knock one of his poor finishes off his record as far as the championship is concerned. We take your best 14 races. He's had results like a 40th at CMP, he had a 28th at Mid-Ohio, a 56th, a 33rd, a 29th, a 38th, a 40th. The more he wins, the more he finishes top 5. He's knocking those off his record, and without Luke McGrew here, he could leave here effectively tied or very close to Luke McGrew, because the rest of his finishes second, third, first, second, fourth.
Yeah,
those are
really
all
close.
great results. And same thing with Catil, same thing with Matan Rosenberg. So
I was going to say Matan was second yesterday, so he did himself a big favor in terms of the championship battle, because he wasn't that far behind. Was he like 3 points behind, I think, Houghton? So he's matching him in a way here. And the other driver we just have to talk about is Lena Chin. Last year she got had an issue in the first race, ended up in the B race, had some brilliant drives in the B race, but I think she felt she had unfinished business. She came in here, qualified 10th, and then in the race drove her way up to 6th on the track. It became 5th when Kevin had his technical issue, but she made what's become her patented move a couple of times, outside passes. She's so good at those and is showing some real speed, and the speed she showed in that race, she starts 4th. So this is I think a career weekend for Lena with the way she's going. Best finish, best qualifying, and now highest start.
And Jackie Ding, who won race B yesterday, is in this show. The Ding Fling got it done yesterday.
Oh man, is he fun to watch in that car. Hopefully we'll get some shots of him. He was really good in the B race. There you go, the Ding Sling. He's going to be, it'll be tougher for him in this one, because this is really the sharp end. And that is an old school, beautiful Corolla, live axle on it, not really designed for radial tires and not really up to the trick suspensions of modern cars. But the fun factor, pegged for him.
He was sliding that thing around like it owed him money the other day. It was so much fun to watch. But James Houghton, Matan Rosenberg start in the front row. It's Marchev and Lena Chin in row 2. Matt Walbaum, Ronnie Vidoc in 5th and 6th. Nick Barbato, Paul Darling, Eric Jensen, and Emil Tab round out your top 10 grid.
Then starting in 11th, it'll be Jake Price, Eric Catil, championship contender in 12th, Peter Zhang, Eric Meadows, and rounding out the top 15, Scott Heckert. Then it'll be Tyler Pappas, Carlos Mendez, Joshua Rubenstein, Eric Magnuson, and finishing the top 20, Salil Shukla.
Then Matt Corrins, Hans Horpedal, Jason Wynn, Kevin Bandy, Jackie Ding, Donna Louie, and Lee Wombold wrap up your 27-car field for GLTC Race 2A. Pace car, the Nissan GTR, is going to peel off and head down the pit lane as we get ready to go racing for the second time this weekend for the A group. Here we go from Lime Rock Park and GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends. Green flag flies and we're racing again at LRP.
Wow, that was, to be honest, an ugly start. Cars peeking out formation well before the green flew, but everybody making it work. But now you got them 5 abreast heading in to Big Bend, and from the outside, beautiful move, Matan Rosenberg in that big Corvette. Not sure anybody wanted to see him get up front.
No, he pounced on that opportunity and immediately jumped to the front. Look at Lena Chin up to 3rd place. She took out an opportunity from the outside of row 2 and moved into 3rd as it's Nick Barbato and Eric Catil. Eric moved up a handful of spots.
Yeah,
up
he
to
sure
9th.
did. And he's trying for more. He's got that overlap, but he's pinned on the outside. They give him the room. Oh, they didn't. The car he was up against there, I'm not sure he even saw him and just sort of closed the door a bit. Eric doing a nice job. Here's Ronnie. Is that Ronnie Vidoc?
It is.
In the middle of a huge battle here with Matt Walbaum and Darling trying to come up through the pack in that gray BMW.
Yeah, Barbato and Tab, and you mentioned Eric Catil. He got shuffled back there a little bit. Is he still having a problem? He dropped. He was up to 9th, but he's fallen back down again.
Yeah, I think he got parked because I think that door shut, and I think he had to jump on the brakes. I hope that's all it was, and not that same problem. It was a throttle body issue of some sort that he was dealing with. Walbaum down to the inside, eating a lot of curb in Big Bend, but he's got the overlap on Darling. But here, Paul is going to have a better drive out of Big Bend, and he's going to have the line in, and he's covered him now. He's through.
Darling has just been so fast here this weekend, and Walbaum will watch that 55 start to put some distance on him there on the Paul Newman straight, just behind Nick Barbato, who's a local driver making his second start in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup competition this weekend. He tested here a few weeks ago, was running track record pace, and he has shown that here this weekend. Darling, big wiggle, top of the hill.
Yeah, and right behind Barbado as well. Really big wiggle. Actually dropped the lefts there, but was able to hang on to it. And you know that Emil Tab is going, ooh, he's really pushing hard. I'm going to keep this pressure on here. And let's see if we can find Coutil as he comes through. And I haven't seen him yet. Last time by, it showed him drop back. He's missing.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, what a shame.
It's not going his way, is it? Emil Tab on Nick Barbado down here at turn 1. Tight quarters there between the BMW and the MX-5.
And Houghton just setting fast lap and doing a nice job behind Rosenberg. Lena Chin, though, right on his 6 and bringing Marchev right along with her here. And just look at this scrum of cars coming through here. I just love how this place races.
And how tight is this field? We have no
amazing.
stragglers in this mix at all. Coutil is down pit lane, Greg, so this is just a nightmare scenario for Eric Coutil all this way for 2 issues in the first 2 races of the weekend.
After qualifying on pole, showing he had all the speed. That car is probably the best car designed in a way for this track. He knew this was an immense opportunity, and that's bad when you just turn right into the paddock. That's a tough way for arguably the fastest guy here. Marchev taking a look here. Lena Chin right down the middle of the track saying, if you're going to do it, go around the outside. And Marchev just could not quite make that work.
Not quite, but they have to keep in touch with these front 2. Big gaggle of cars. 3 wide into turn 1, Greg. This is getting wild down here.
And
they're 4 wide into turn 1. You can't
now
do that, Greg. And somehow, I think they're going to get through there without wadding it up.
Unbelievable. Look at this. Look at this. Walbaum and Darling again side by side. And this is a good battle here. This is for that 6th spot behind Vidoc. These guys are going at it hammer and tong. And right behind them, Barbado, Tab, Price, that big gaggle as well. Look at that. 4 or 5 cars right now fighting for that 6th spot.
Barbado sitting here. He can't do 3 wide into West Bend. Big curb on the inside. Tightens up the line. You see Walbaum hit it there. Emil Tab and Jake Price, they worked together. They towed together down here with the Louisville widebody guys bringing Tab's car out here for him. And they're nose to tail right now, 9th and 10th here as we sweep on through for the next lap. And the front 3 are tightening back up again.
Yeah, Lena Chin now is within a car length of Houghton. She just sets her best lap of the race. She still has Marchev right on her 6th, but she's now closed right up to Houghton here, who's about a second off of Rosenberg, who continues to hold that fast lap.
Yeah, Ronnie Vidoc kind of in no man's land at the moment, but what a mess it was the last time down into turn 1. They got it sorted out somehow. I don't know how they did that. We've seen 4 wide here once before, Greg. It was on the race start. 3 laps in, I've never seen that before.
No, and it was 2 groups that did it. So, yeah, the racing is fierce everywhere you look here in this pack. And the one thing for Rosenberg, remember, these Corvettes, because of their power and their torque, they run heavier. And so he got out to the lead, which is where he wanted to be, because 1, drive wide, and 2, take care of those left side tires. Remember, almost every corner here, save 1, is a right-hander. So the lefts take a pounding, and in a rear drive car, it's that left rear. And he just really wants to baby that a little bit, make sure he's got something to go at the end. But Lena Chin, Marchev setting their fast laps. Darling, Walbaum, everybody finding speed as this race progresses.
Yeah, this is a nice tight battle here with the top 4, and Lena Chin is just having a career day here. Last year was up in the front in the B races, but to race at the front of GLTC, it is so hard, Greg, and this is going to be a huge boost of confidence for her to be up in this mix. And I said the same thing about Marchev at Mid-Ohio. Once you start to run well and you've got everything dialed and you're comfortable in your race car, it's hard to drop out of the mix without a mechanical problem.
Oh, absolutely. And, here's the thing. Comfort builds confidence, and confidence builds speed. When you're confident, you're going to go fast. And Lena has been driving this car for a long time. It's developed as far as it's going to go. On other tracks, it's not a great car necessarily, and she wheels it incredibly well. But here, this is probably the best track for this car, and she's giving it a heck of a ride. But Tony Marchev wants something to say about that, but then overshoots into Big Bend just a little bit and loses about 4 car lengths.
And just behind this, Paul Darling is running down Ronnie Vidoc there for 5th place. So Darling continues to advance forward. Look at this, Scott Hecker to the inside of Silo Shukla, Eric Magnuson, Carlos Mendez, Peter Zhang. And look at this mess. Donald Louis and Jackie Ding going at it into turn 1.
Oh, yeah, Jackie. There he is, that Eibach, number 86. And just look at the slides. That one was pretty tame for what we have seen. But he just loved, that's why they call it, the ding sling. He just loves pitching that car, playing pitch and catch and having some fun with it right now. Look at this nice little scrum here heading into the uphill.
That's still Shukla and Heckert door to door. Shukla's out wide over the white line there, and Magnussen will take advantage and drive on through.
And Magnussen, he thought he had a shot, and he's not going to like being where he is because his car overheated yesterday, and he was convinced it was because he was right behind that same yellow Corvette of Heckert and was eating the hot exhaust, and it was causing the sensors to show overheat in his car. But this is such a good battle. Now, Ding is there, and Ronnie Vidoc, did he save a little tire, or is he at his max here?
I think he's at his max. He's got his mirrors packed full of Paul Darling, Matt Waldbaum, Nick Barbato. There's a great fight here for a top 5 position. The points start to pay out a whole lot more, 5th and above, so you would like to get these spots. We're only about halfway through this race still, so watch the time for this to play out.
Action-packed. I'll tell you, Nick Barbato, he's shown up and shown he's for real, huh?
He has, and again, as I mentioned, he tested here. He was ready for this fight. He planned all season to be here, to try out this series, and he's showing...
Talked to a lot of drivers. Woo! That was a moment for Darling as he ran wide the bottom of the diving turn, but hung on to it. But a lot of drivers who've come from other categories where they're absolute front runners have shown up here and said, wow, is this field tough. Tom O'Gorman, one of them, when he came from, after winning 2 pro championships and World Challenge, came over here to race and went, this field at the sharp end is not easy. There's some real talent here, and they're putting on a heck of a race for us.
Yeah, Vidoc is doing a nice job on defense here, but you see the gap, 2 seconds back for Marchev, 7 for Vidoc, so they are kind of dropping out of the mix and battling amongst themselves, sort of conceding the rest of the order inside the top 5 to that front 4 breakaway. But now Waldbaum is all over Darling again at the crest of the hill. And Emil Tabb watching all this, waiting to see how the puzzle pieces fall into place so he can make a move.
He's actually closed it back in a little bit. He had dropped off by about 10 car lengths and has come back at it. Interesting what we're seeing here, isn't it? The top 4 covered by 2.5 seconds or less. And then 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, all covered by about 1.5 seconds. This is some great racing here in 2 different groups. Great shot of, you can see that pack of 5 cars. That's your duel for the final spot in the top 5 right now. And Price is closing up a little bit here. Oh, Heckert, just a beautiful pass as well. He heads down into turn 1. Kind of been waiting. I mean, he had an amazing weekend at Road America. Not sure that car is really suited to this track.
It isn't, but there's, you mentioned the 2 groups, the leaders, and then this one. There's a 3rd group back there with Eric Jensen, Magnussen, Scott Heckert. They're also battling in a pretty fierce way here. So there's racing all over the racetrack. Oh, trouble, turn 3. And Magnussen and Jensen have gotten together. And it looks like Magnussen will pull away, but Jensen, driver's left at turn 3, which is the left-hander. And about 5 minutes remaining in this race, there will likely be a yellow flag over there. And we'll see if Jensen can get pulled away.
Oh boy, look at this now. Houghton just sets fast lap. Remember, Rosenberg had it for much of the race, but Houghton now just set fast lap, and he's now down to almost only 0.5 seconds off of Rosenberg.
So they're going to work their way through turns 1 and 2, and did Jensen get pulled away is the question. I didn't see if I saw a yellow there at the exit of 1, but we'll see as the camera pans through. He looks like he did pull away.
He did.
So
good deal.
That's great news. So we will stay green.
And my guess is, just looking at what may have happened there, I think Heckert went for the pass on Jensen, which then Magnussen saw that door open a little bit, and I'm guessing maybe there was a tap, as Jensen maybe didn't expect to have another car come steaming through there. But nonetheless, this 5-car train is now officially 6. Price has said, that looks like fun.
The leaders are all about equidistant from each other, about 6 or 7 car lengths between. You can see it there in the shot. But Vidoc has just done such a nice job on defense.
He really has.
And Darling will try to poke a hole in that defense in the last few minutes of this race.
And that top 3 now, Chin has been able to distance Marchev. He's dropped off a little bit. So right now, Lena is sticking right with 2 of the top points people and 2 of the fastest drivers in this series. Talk about, as we said, a career event.
Yeah, it's really playing out in her favor here this weekend. I see Magnussen rolling by. I haven't seen Jensen come back by again, but he hasn't stayed where he was at the very least. Here's Barbato side by side with Waldbaum, and I don't know if Matt's letting him go or if he's got an issue perhaps on that 90.
It doesn't look like he's really super backpedaling. I just think maybe Barbado got a better run there.
Well, side by side into
They're
6th, so he's
still
not
not done.
conceding. And there it is, pass complete, and Barbado to 7th.
But here, look at that gap now between those two, and now Barbado. That's this momentum track. And the minute you go side by side through a corner or two, it slows you both down in terms of your momentum, and that's what happens. And believe it or not, you think, well, if you lost it that fast as Darling looks around the outside, certainly you can make it up that fast. No, it takes a while. This track is it's a great track to drive. It's a tough track to race in terms of passing.
Camille Tabb had a look at Waldbaum into turn 1 as well. Big moment there. If you get offline too far, there's lots of marbles and things that make it slick. Look at Tabb, even a little counter steer as he defends from Jake Price in the Louisville wide body 202.
And Barbado had that Bimmer hung out pretty nice there as he went in to the left-hander. And again, when you're setting your car up for this track, you make sure it turns right really well. And I was talking with Kevin Zhu about that, and I said, you did great in that lone left-hander, and he said no, and he said, but it has to be 6 times better or worse in the left-hander for it to make a problem. You just don't worry about the left-hander.
Yeah, most racetracks, you set the car up to turn equally left and right.
You bet.
Here, this is not one of those racetracks. Look at Tabb all over Matt Waldbaum here for 8th place now. And Waldbaum looking a little defensive into turn 1.
I wonder if he maybe ran his tires off a little bit. He's been battling furiously here.
Could be. Tabb's car is so light.
Yeah.
I mean, Waldbaum's car isn't heavy, but it's on the heavier side of S2000.
Yep.
It's up 2,850 pounds or something of the sort. Onto the Paul Newman straight. And there's Vidoc, 5th. Darling, 6th. Barbado. And Darling, his progress seems to have stalled a little. Hans Horpedal rolling down pit lane as the white flag is out for the race leader.
Look at this.
Jake Price opens the door on Waldbaum.
Yep.
We're going to do side-by-side through the diving turn. Yes, we will.
We are. And that all started with Tabb able to get through on Waldbaum and gave Price an opportunity to get that nose in there, get that overlap. And I think he might get him now down into Big Bend. He's got that overlap. And if he turns straight into the apex, Matt's going to try the outside. There is grip there.
If he can hang on the left here, he'll have the advantage in left-hand turn. But, not quite enough. And you see the wiggle, and that's all it takes. But Waldbaum keeps the nose in there for turn 3.
Yeah, Price gave him lots of room, a lot of respect here between these two drivers here, but Price eventually takes that back. But Jackie Ding headed down the front straight, but we're on our last lap, and Houghton has that margin down to 6/10. But that's a lot to make up in one lap here. Here they come.
Matan Rosenberg, so far this season, 3 wins. This is his 4th checkered flag. Matan Rosenberg wins at Lime Rock Park. And a 4th win on the season for him. And James Houghton finishes 2nd with Lena Chin and Tony Marchev 3rd and 4th. Ronnie Vidoc just beats Paul Darling to the stripe, 5th and 6th. Then Barbado, Tabb, Price, and Waldbaum, the rest of your top 10, Greg.
Yeah, Price got him on that last lap, as we said. There comes Waldbaum.
Kind of off pace, actually.
Yeah, that engine suddenly sounding a little bit rough out there. And the rest of the field streaming through here. Tyler Pappas, 11th. Meadows, 12th. Heckert back in 13th. Sukla in 14th. Carlos Mendez in the 15th spot. Zhang Corrins, who always puts on a good show, good run up into the top 15. But I'll tell you what, Lena Chin, her first podium, and man, is she showing everybody that she is for real in GLTC at the sharp end. And I've said it many times, folks, the top 10 in GLTC it has some incredibly good driving talent in it. And seeing Lena, she's worked so hard for it, and man, she put it together. But kudos to Rosenberg, used that big grunt to get to the front, and then just drove an absolutely perfect. Never saw him remotely close to sideways. He saved those tires beautifully, just was at the limit, never exceeded it. That was a beautiful drive.
It was, and for Lena Chin, her first podium ever in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, at least in the A race, which as far as the stats are concerned, we treat, at the end of the weekend, points are effectively treated like it's one field of 60. So even though she ran podiums last year, this is a true, real podium up in 3rd place. Nice job there. Unfortunate for Eric Jensen, Hans Horpedal, Lee Wombold, and of course Eric Cattell result just not going his way this weekend. They don't always go your way, Greg, and it's been real hot or cold for Catil this season.
It really has. I mean, he's wicked quick, former champion. When the car is working, he is a factor everywhere. But in this race here, you can see the run up there, and Matan just pinched just a little bit, enough room for James. But when you pinch a driver like that, it tightens his radius up through the corner, and that allowed Matan to get into the lead. And he just stayed there for the whole race. But behind him, the racing was furious.
Unbelievable. Paul Darling passed the 90 of Waldbaum. Eric Catil again with issues, likely throttle body related, as that's what put him out yesterday. So he will continue to work on that car between now and race 3 later this afternoon. But it is going to be a frustrating struggle for that. Here's Waldbaum and Darling again side by side. They raced like this plenty of times. Barbado, Tab, and Price got a great view of it.
Yeah, it was just a great group battling for that. There's that moment, and indeed there was some contact, as we speculated, with Jensen and Magnussen. Magnussen able to continue. Jensen, I think, just found a cutout, and then Jackie Ding slinging it and having a great battle there as well here. But boy, just some fabulous racing and enjoying every moment of it. And then near the end, you saw Waldbaum start to backpedal just a little bit, and as he came by and got the checker, it sounded like that engine was a little rough.
Yeah, so checkered flag on race 2A, and it was Matan Rosenberg grabbing his 4th win of the season. That, just like yesterday with Houghton, it's going to propel him right into that championship fight, knocking some of the races he needs knocked off of his championship fight. Look at the campgrounds here at Circuit Legends. Sold out camp crowd here this weekend. Great to see. And we'll see more of that and the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship right after this break.
Hi, I'm Chris Forsberg, and I want to tell you about Valvoline's FlexFill Gear Oil, which is designed by car people for car people. It comes in a pouch, which is specifically made to work in tight spaces, and it saves me time versus the old pumping method, so I can focus on things like keeping my drivetrain running clean. Unlike the pump, the FlexFill pouch leaves no wasted oil and no wasted time. Plus, it keeps my garage nice and clean from any spills. All you gotta do is put the nozzle where you need some oil, give it a squeeze, and you're ready for the road. That's why I protect everything in my garage with Valvoline. Valvoline, trusted for over 150 years.
Welcome to our world. A world of dirt, drift, and dodging fate. A world where all of motorsport collides. A world of digging deep, of grit, glory, and bitter defeat. Inhabited by the strong, the fearless, the barely sane. Welcome to our world. Welcome to the world of NOS.
High performance, year-round traction, long tread life. It's one tire with multiple personalities. Introducing the Azenas FK460, Falcon's all-new ultra-high-performance all-season tire. With an advanced rubber compound that delivers confidence through every curve, in any condition, all year long, making the seemingly impossible possible. Learn more about the Azenas FK460 at falcontire.com.
GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends is all about celebrating the history of modern tuning culture and the history of Lime Rock Park. Welcome back to GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends, the 4th round of the 2024 Festival Tour at one of the smallest tracks in North America, but packed full of racing history. Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer and now by Chris Drum, who filled in for me at Carolina Motorsports Park at the last minute when I got very, very sick, and I had to sit home and watch that stream from a distance, which was painful. But Chris, thanks so much for doing that, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a great time at CMP, and I'm glad to be back here.
Well, it was one of those things. I was scrambling to find a replacement. I just put out a help call on Facebook, and Chris was the only one that responded. And man, I'm so glad that he did, Greg. But it was so fun to watch Carolina Motorsports Park, and this is, I think, your first time back at a GRIDLIFE this season, but you're in support of another competitor, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great time. I always love the GRIDLIFE paddock, and it's unlike anything else.
It certainly is. Greg Kramer, we've got NOS Energy Track Battle Championship coming up again. Heat 5 of the weekend. We've had 4 heats so far. We're running these the old-fashioned way with heats instead of the podium sprint format, but we're running slowest to fastest, but we're going to get to see some track records get broken, as it has already, in a number of classes, including Sunday Cup. Yeah,
it's just been really, really quick here, and I think this morning the conditions look to me to be really, really stout here, and the reason we're back to the old-school version here is just a matter of timing. It's a packed schedule here, and of course we cannot run on Sundays here, so it just changes the dynamic a bit. But Chris, to me, the conditions right now, I looked at it, it's 73 degrees out there. Real feels only 1 degree higher. We've got nice overcast, so the track's not getting pounded by sun. I think this is primo conditions for more track records.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a little bit of drizzle before the very first session this morning, so the track was a little bit green. So I think this will be the session. If track record is broken, it'll be here.
And GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends is brought to you by Falcon, the official tire of GRIDLIFE Track Battle, and NOS Energy, the official energy drink sponsor of GRIDLIFE and the title partner of the NOS Energy Track Battle Time Attack. And as the field heads out on the racetrack here, get an idea of kind of where things have been with the timing and scoring so far. Sasha Nice overall is the fastest car here this weekend. He's broken the track record at a 50.852, but the cars on track right now, Greg, are primarily the Falcon Sunday Cup cars.
Right, and as we do when we do these groups, there's 5 groups, and it's the slowest in the field, and that's why in this scenario, as opposed to it being each class, you're going to see a mix of cars, and it's just based strictly on time, which is a good idea because it gets if you're in a much faster car but you're a little newer driver, don't yet have that speed, you don't want to be out there impeding the super fast guys, and vice versa. If you're in a lower powered car but you're a whiz behind the wheel, you don't want to be
trouble.
No.
That's a biggie.
And that is the Mazda protege of Joseph King, who was second in the Sunday Cup category, and that is a big one for sure.
Yeah, and they're currently waving the black flag all, so all the cars will come into the pit so they can recover that car. That is a shame, and I really hope he's okay.
So a big one to start Heat 5 here of the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship here this morning at Lime Rock Park. And Greg, we talked about this racetrack, while it is small, there are still risks that you have to take, especially at the uphill, the downhill. There is a fast sequence of corners here.
Well, that's good news right there. See him trying to get out, so that's cool. But here's the thing. Yeah, with this track, and Chris, you can attest to this as well. You look at it, it looks pretty simple in the layout, but with that climb and then the drop, but everywhere else around, there's not a ton of runoff. This is, an old school kind of consequential track. And on this track, once you get to speed, you rarely get out of speed very much, right?
Yeah, your typical V-men around here, you're doing, 60, 50 mile an hour at the slowest.
Yeah.
So you're carrying a lot of momentum through these corners. And, see right here, we have 6 feet off the track to Armco. And Armco is not very forgiving.
Yeah, and the other side of it, too, is other than this front straight, which isn't terribly long, this track is always changing direction. And so you get side by side with somebody, or you get off of your rhythm, off of your pattern a little bit, and it can bite you. And we've seen that.
Yeah, and the elevation does not help that at all, especially at the very top of the hill. The rear unloads, and it's very dynamic.
Sounds great.
Oh, absolutely.
When they spin up and the revs just suddenly skyrocket.
Or when you see them jump the top of the hill.
Yeah, that's pretty spectacular.
And just for some perspective, Greg, you and I were looking at the track record board that's right outside here on the tower. And over the years, you can watch the track record fall. And Roger Penske and Sam Posey and Skip Barber all have had track records here. And one of the Sam Posey records was a 58-second lap. And you look at our field here, I think about 80 of cars here this weekend have already surpassed what was the track record back in the 1970s. So, the progress in tire technology, you're going so fast around here and carrying so much speed. It's just, even the Sunday Cup cars, a 104 lap around a 1.5-mile racetrack, you are hauling around this bull ring.
Yeah, especially those cars. I was up watching in West Bend yesterday a little bit, and, those cars and some of the other cars, there's not even a lift through West Bend, and that's a quick, tight corner. So you're really, hustling around here. And, if you think back to the original IMSA GTP era, and you think of John Morton when he came up over the rise on that uphill, and the front got light, he caught air underneath it, and up and over he went. And then I had the honor of being able to announce a number of American Le Mans Series events here with those prototypes. And they had to put the chicane in because the technology had advanced advanced so much that it was just too fast through that section of track. So it's got great challenge here, and that's one of the things, these old school tracks, we've talked about it, Kyle, that were done to mimic, having the races on public roads. A few of them got it really right, and this is one of it. This is what it feels like if you go out and just drive around on a nice Sunday afternoon anywhere around here. You could essentially be driving this track.
This was one of the first racetracks in the United States to be built to a highway safety standard as well. That was a big part. The original constructors of Lime Rock were obsessed with the idea of safety, and so that when this racetrack was built, it was very different than a lot of the tracks of its time as far as the safety was concerned. But one of the things we talked about yesterday, Greg, was also that this was not the original configuration of this racetrack as planned. The racetrack that was planned was never built, but the original configuration was supposed to be north of 2.5 miles, and the straightaway that leads into turn 1, where there's that extra pavement, it went all the way up the hill and looped around in some very fast sequences and rejoined at what is now the left-hander. So what we're running today would have been configured as the short course here. So it's just a really interesting bit of history that never quite played out.
Yeah, it's interesting. What is now everybody just thinks is just that runoff down into turn 1. It's fortuitous it's there because that's the one spot where if you have a problem, now you've got room to go. But it wasn't necessarily built that long just to be runoff. There were other plans, obviously, and you can see it just has that look that it should disappear into the woods, and it kind of looks like now some of the tracks in Europe where they've shortened what used to be the track, and you see that one piece of road that then just turns into grass and overgrown, but that used to be racetrack. Well, this could have been racetrack.
There's a few video games that modders have brought that racetrack to life, and it's a pretty interesting look at what could have been. And there was even a discussion of how much of the history of Lime Rock would have changed if that longer configuration existed. Think about modern IMSA, for example. Would they run the GTPs on a configuration if it was longer and had a longer lap time, more passing opportunities, all those things, Chris? The future and the past looked very different if things played out just a little differently.
Yeah, absolutely. We always think about what if, but Lime Rock is the perfect track. It flows so well, especially for them just running the GT3 cars nowadays in IMSA. They have had to add the chicane just to slow them down, and it does create a passing opportunity there where you couldn't otherwise have one.
Yeah, certainly, and really the reason why that chicane was put in, Greg touched on it, was just to keep cars from getting airborne, and there was a different chicane there for many years that was replaced with what is now at the bottom of the hill, Greg, and that chicane was, we talked about the ding sling. That was a sling in itself.
It truly was. And, one of the great pictures that was ever taken is a photographer who's based out in this area, and during a Trans Am race, Paul Gentilozzi, coming up the uphill, dropped his left rear tire right as he went up and over, and there's a picture. The front of the car is 3 feet off the ground. The left rear is thrown up a rooster tail of dirt and gravel, and he's got opposite lock in those tires, even though he's 3 feet up in the air. And Roz just nailed that picture, and it was his business card for many years. But that's what you would see. You go back, there's video of the Trans Am and the IMSA GTS Audis. Massive air up and over that as well. So, this place is exciting. There's no question about it. And then the other part of it, the laps come at you relentless because, one, you're constantly moving, and two, you're lapping here at 50, 55, 50, 60 seconds per lap. You think about how many laps you run here during, as opposed to, say, Road America in the same time frame.
Lots. And of course, we saw that with GLTC. At Road America, where we just came from 5 or 6 laps is really all you got. And we had some incidents that shortened those races even further to 2 and sometimes 3 laps. Here, we're getting 12, 15, 18 laps in a race, and it just increases your opportunity to attack and defend.
Yeah, absolutely. The opportunity is the key thing here, especially in GLTC. It's so difficult to pass. All the cars are so even, and all the drivers are so good. So you have to take what opportunities you can, and with more laps, more corners, more opportunities.
So I mentioned you're here this weekend in support. What's actually going on in the paddock for you here this weekend?
Yep, so I've been here working on the number 606 of Alan Patton, and then Friends Cars as well. So we've been here this week testing and then competing.
Yeah, and Alan Patton so far this season in the points championship has really been in the mix. He is second coming into the weekend, but only 3 rounds completed to Cal Fortner's 5. Of course, 4 is all that is needed for a championship, and the difference between them is only 3 points. And Alan, in all 3 of the rounds he's competed in, he has won and gotten a track record in. So if he does that again, that is a perfect season. 4 wins, 4 track records.
Yep, and unfortunately, we had an issue when we were testing here on Tuesday where the mid-pipe of the exhaust came off, and unfortunately pointed the exhaust up above the subframe, and it got a little crispy. So we melted some wheel speed sensor wiring and some EDIF wiring. Thankfully, we were able to go to Auto Sport Fab, which is a local shop here, on Wednesday, and Pete and his team knocked out the wheel speed sensor wiring and got that fixed up. Unfortunately, we did not realize there was a differential issue until we were here testing. We ran the test day on Thursday, and so we spent all day yesterday fixing and diagnosing the diff issue. So for the very last session yesterday, we got the diff fixed, and so it was able to make big improvements.
That's all great to hear. And if you have to leave and go, good, let me know.
Oh, yeah, no, we're good. We're set. We made a small little setup change for this session, and so we should be good to go.
Well, and interestingly, you're talking about Alan Patton. It's a street mod car. He's 4th quick out of everybody so far. There's 3 unlimited cars in front of him, and even with those issues, he put in a 53.8 in that Supra. That is absolutely stonking quick around here in a street mod car.
Yeah, and even with that lap, we were down 8 mile an hour on the straight. We had a small engine issue that's since been resolved, so it should be even faster.
Oh, that's going to be spectacular.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. His cars are out now behind the safety car procedure. Now, Chris, last time you were calling a GRIDLIFE event, we didn't have this procedure in place. But to save track time and to get people on course and get tires and things warmed up, we've effectively instituted it's a safety car, but we kind of treat it like a Code 60 where you don't have to bunch up behind the pace car. You can get yourself a gap. You just have to travel around pace car speed. And that way, when we're cleaning up incidents, we can keep things moving. And it's really helped save a lot of track time.
Yeah, absolutely. And with time attack, the outlap is very crucial, and every organization does it differently. So you get a lot of people coming from different ways, doing different things, and it's very confusing for other competitors. So the safety car is definitely good for that.
Well, what I like is if you have an incident like we had, if you bring everybody in, it takes time to bring them in, then you go work on the incident, then they have to go back out again, and all of that's eliminated when you do this Code 60 full course yellow, when they just lap slowly, but then as soon as it's cleaned up, back to green. And here, that can save, 2-3 laps?
Yeah,
it's
and
huge.
When we only have 70 minutes to run 5 entire track battle groups, time is crucial.
So let's run through the timing and scoring here for each of the different respective classes. Of course, this is old school time attack, so all the classes are mixed together. But Sunday Cup, it's Chris Rice up on top with a 104.16. Joseph King, who had that rollover incident just now, is second in class with David Best in position number 3. And Falcon Club TR, Evan McLaren, Peter Granberg, James Houghton. That is awful tight. Although, Greg, we did see this morning that 330 car have some damage to the left front.
Yeah, we did. And I was just looking, too, in the Sunday Cup, as we often see, the top 6 cars covered by less than a second, and not a surprise. But here, super tight as well, obviously. A 58.0, a 58.0. I mean, that's 0.3 difference. That's tight.
It is. And in street class, 57.65 for Luca Barberis, trying to continue pulling away from competitors like Joe Milkey and Eddie Siegel and Mark Brylow this morning. A 1 minute .275, jumping up into the conversation for a podium. He has not driven in GRIDLIFE since about 2019, so it's great to have him back here. He's usually in support of the Gears and Gasoline guys, and this weekend he is the show, running P4 right now in street class, Chris.
Yeah, and Luca Barberis, he's in a class of his own this season. He is dominating track records every place he goes.
Yeah, looking at his season, he has got 4 rounds so far. He's won 3 of them and was second with a track record at another. So he has had a really solid weekend. So if he can break the track record and win the event, he will again have a perfect point season. And as far as the track record, he has a 57.65 this weekend. And yeah, by 2 seconds, he's cleared the track record this weekend.
Yeah, just absolutely incredible.
So that is your street class running order. And let's have a look at the street GT standings. And this one's been fun, Greg. Andy Vogel and Ito Waxman trading blows this season. It's been mostly Vogel's year. Waxman defeated him at Road America by a couple tenths of a second, but the C8 back on top here.
Yeah, and a surprising chunk here, down to a 56.3 to Waxman's 57.1. That's a big margin that we don't usually see between these guys. And then Aranha and Prusank and even Horn, they're not that far off. I mean, look at the grouping behind them, that 58.1 to a 58.9 for Vosk. That's pretty close as well, but really impressive that lap that Volkel pulled out here to turn that 56.3. I think he did that in the first session this morning and just scorched one.
And cleared the track record by 1.5 seconds. So, I mean, again, that continues. And then into the street mod group, Alan Patton sitting on the top with a 53.887. That is an unbelievable lap time in a street mod car.
Oh, absolutely. And I just want to draw attention to Peter Liu as well in that red Supra. That Supra has no power modifications. It has a bone stock engine in classes where people like Patton, McHugh, all these people are making 700 plus horsepower. For Liu to have half the horsepower and be that close, phenomenal.
And 3 seconds clear of the track record. I guess it's only about 1 second clear of the rear-wheel drive track record for Alan Patton, but that's still a lot. And we'll move into the track mod category. I think we're going to get green here pretty shortly. So track mod, it's Brad Perkins up on top in the number 27, and the previous record that was held in that category in rear-wheel drive was 54.966, so he's also beaten that record by 0.3 of a second. And then in the unlimited class, we've already talked about it, track record broken there as well with Sasha Anise at a 50.852, beating what was previously a 51.193. So records in, I think, every category we just talked about.
Yeah, it's incredible. This is such a great weekend. The weather's been phenomenal, and we couldn't ask for any better.
There's a look at Jason Gaitis in the Subaru BRZ running in the Falcon Club TR category. This is a spec tire class where everyone's running on the same width Falcon RT660 tire, and one of the most well-attended categories, 24 cars in it this round, and we've had upwards of 30 at some of the events earlier this season, Greg. That is a crazy amount of cars for one of our 7 time attack classes.
It really is, and it just shows how popular it is. And it's one of the classes that just has great bang for the buck. When you think about it, to be able to come out, lap very quickly, very competitively here without a massive spend, and that's attractive to an awful lot of people here. And I just wanted to make a point here. I wanted to confirm it. When Sam Posey became the first driver to break a minute around here in 1968, he was driving a McLaren Can-Am car, and now you've got cars in these categories which are far more stock, but just the general tech. But the biggest thing is the aero, but tires. The tire technology is so superior to what it was then that you see, some of these cars that are much more stock are able to approach those lap times.
Yeah, I mean, right here we see 9 cars in Club TR all under a minute, and they're all in the same Falcon street tire.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the best things I think about Club TR is the street tire, is the spec tire. You don't have to worry about trying to beat anyone on tires. You're all on a level playing field, and it's all making that tire work for you.
And that really puts the onus, obviously getting the car dialed up, but on the driver. It's not like you can go, well, I didn't have the right tires for this event. Everybody's on the same tire. Yeah, you got to get the car dialed up correctly. But I love that aspect of it because it's really a showcase for the drivers. All right, if you top this group, you're doing something.
Tim Turner and that BMW is in the street mod. You see him down in P9 right there, just over a minute. And defending from Clay Davidson at a 101.124. It's about 0.4 between those two cars. And street mod at this level, again, a lot of this, the classification is kind of determined how much aero do you want, how much of your interior do you want left, and how much tire do you want to put on. And that effectively determines your class. So sometimes you've got street mod cars that are not, they're not making 800 horsepower. They might be making stock power, but have a gutted interior and are running, a 200 tread per time.
Yep, and that is a beautiful E46 M3. And the best part of the E46 M3, of course, is the engine. The S54, high revving, naturally aspirated inline 6. Phenomenal.
I think one of the best sounding engines ever. When one of those goes by, you just sort of feel it in your soul, and it's a really, really pretty sound.
And I think that MX-5 we were looking at, was that the 241 of Lotfi, I think that was coming down the hill at turn 7. But continuing to put in lap times here. The conditions are, I don't think they're totally primed to go fastest of the day, but it's always possible. And yes, it is the 241 of Lotfi working his way through the first corner. And the MX-5 is like the basic 2x4 Lego brick of any category in grid life, it seems, Chris, between GLTC or Club TR or even in Street Mod, we've seen MX-5s taken to the limit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've seen them in pretty much every class except for Sunday Cup at this point.
Actually, we have seen them in Sunday Cup, not here at this weekend, but we did at Road America with a restrictor on the intake, and that's how it got down to the 25-to-1 power to weight, but fascinating.
Well, I don't think it's unfair to say that for a street car, the MX-5 is probably the best balanced car that's ever been built. And so if you start with that platform, and then you can maintain that balance as you add weight with more motor and you make adjustments at the back. If you can keep that platform balanced, it's a great way to go racing at any speed.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen even some crazy unlimited build Miatas, like Joshua Briggs' Miata, that K-swapped almost 1,000 horsepower Miata with the sequential. I mean, there's sky's the limit with these cars.
And I love seeing a Miata with like velocity stacks coming out the front. There's been some fun engineering going on in that bad boy.
Bronson McNeamer.
Exactly.
He has lots of fun with that car. What's funny is I think it was last year at Mid-Ohio, I went to his paddock spot and he had beers in each of the ITBs there. And it just stuck in the top. And it holds an 8-pack.
Yeah.
It doubles very good for the GRIDLIFE after party.
It sure does, absolutely. So while this group continues, there's a lot of Club TR cars in this mix, but not necessarily the pointy end of the Club TR field, so we'll keep our eyes on any green swipes, which means that a driver has improved. But I have honestly not seen a lot of that, Greg,
I haven't
in this
either.
session so far. But as we move up in the groups, we should see more and more times kind of pipping here.
Well, and Chris was talking about how there was a little bit of moisture this morning, so every time these cars are running, they're just getting more rubber back down on a track that may have been a little bit green, so it's entirely possible. And if with this cloud cover, if this sticks, there's only a couple little gaps of blue here. It's going to keep the temp low, both ambient but also on the track. And so you get some of these cars out that are a little bit more aggressive aero, a little bit more tire. We could see some stuff happening for sure.
Yeah, and at Lime Rock, there's zero brake for the tires to cool off. You're constantly turning, so 1-2 laps, you're going to cook your tires. So the lower the ambient temperature, the lower the track temperature, the longer those tires are going to last.
We saw the ND MX-5 and Nick Babin. That car, I believe, is for sale right now. So if you're interested, I guess go talk to Nick because he wants to move on to something different. I think this is an early ND1 MX-5. And Chris, the later versions of this car had a lot more power and I think are a little better suited to Falcon Club TR. This one is really at its limit as far as what it can make without, you can't really do a lot to it because you can't open the motor in Falcon Club TR.
Yep, and that's part of the class. I mean, you have to... there's a lot of cars that can be competitive, but at the end of the day, if your chassis isn't particularly competitive, either, find a new class or get a car for the class. I mean, but TR with the huge 24-car field, I don't know why you wouldn't want the perfect car for it,
Right, and the one thing you can do, Greg, is you can swap engines.
I was going to say, all you need, he just needs somebody to buy it who's willing to, as Tim Taylor would say, rewire it.
yeah. Just swap maybe an ND3 into the ND1 chassis.
Yep.
But, we don't see a ton of ND Miatas in general. Lots of NAs, NBs, NCs. But when those cars get cheap, I think you'll see them everywhere. It's one of the best chassis that you can get. But for a lot of the time attack categories, it doesn't quite have the motor it needs. But we did see one at, I think it was at CMP.
Yes, and running in Street Mod. I believe that car had no aero and was supercharged, and it made the podium sprint even still.
It did, and that was fun to watch. And they weighed 2,250 pounds, which you can't get cars light from factory anymore.
No, not even close.
I believe that's actually lighter than the original NA Miata.
I think you're right about that. And it certainly was a lot less than the prior generation MX-5. So Mazda did a lot of work to get that car that small. I've driven one. I do not fit. That's why I got to be a Toyota 86 guy, because I just can't fit in an ND, but they are cool cars. Garrett Glasteri improved the 238 up to 12th place, so knocks Babin back one spot. One of the first green swipes we've seen on screen so far, actually.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
And just hear him feathering the throttle out of there, trying to put the power down.
As Greg said earlier, that rise over the crest when you come over and the revs climb. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of car to have to do that either. Right here.
Kept his foot in it.
He sure did.
And that's another thing to consider with some of these turbo time attack cars making more and more power. You might want to breathe the throttle to get out of it, but then if you lose the spool on the turbo, you're losing there. So sometimes you have to risk taking it flat.
And there's that Honda Fit coming by the stripe as well, which is a car I hadn't heard about or seen yet in GRIDLIFE competition. But I imagine there's a whole lot. I imagine it's got to be K-swapped to be competitive in Falcon Club TR, because stock engine into Fit is not going to make power for this category. But he's not going slow at all.
Yeah, and that is an awesome looking car. It's definitely got the time attack style.
Yeah, it does. And I was just watching, we listened to that great sound from the 148 of Eunice. He would, the 198 of Eunice. He was coming up and over the rise. But I've watched him now twice going into West Bend. Huge push turning into that corner. So he is on it. He is doing everything he can to just keep that front drive working. But remember, in these front drive cars, it does everything up front. Brakes, turns, accelerates, and it's really easy to just scorch the tires right off of these cars.
Yeah, and like you were talking about in the GLTC race, Lime Rock, it's got 7 corners, 6 to the right, 1 to the left. It's a very heavy right-centric track. So honestly, you want to do a little bit of an inverse circle track setup. Get a little bit of NASCAR go on, maybe a little bit of positive camber on the right side tires. You might lose a bit in the left hand, but it's kind of a throwaway corner.
Well, Kevin Zhu was talking about that, and I mentioned it before. I was asking about that. I said, so how's it handling that left-hander? Because he said he's got wedge in it. He's done everything to it. And he goes, it's not good. And he goes, but you know what? It has to be 7 times worse in that corner to be able to, make it overall slower just because of the left-hander. Don't worry about the left-hander, man. Get the right-handers working. You're going to be fast.
Yeah.
Look at that paddock and that hillside.
I mean, it's great. The Legends Concourse is happening under that tent right now, curated by Prime NYC, and pulling in some of the cleanest builds and most significant cars from the 1980s to now. And the focus this year was the Mazda RX-7. So that was the Legends chassis of the year. It was the R34 GTR in previous years. And every year, the goal is to shift the focus to a different legendary car that sort of created the car culture that is what began GRIDLIFE.
Yeah, and what's awesome is when you have that particular car competing in track battle here with people like Rob Dahm and his FD RX-7 3-rotor.
Yeah, cool stuff. Some of the facts here, Lime Rock. The famous Appalachian Trail is right around the corner from here, and we actually had a situation a couple of years ago where he had a hiker get lost and end up on the track. So he was
interesting,
a little hot and delirious, and ended up taking a wrong turn and ended up right here at Lime Rock Park.
There's worse places to end up when you get lost.
Well, just fascinating. So good stuff.
And it's just, this track is carved out of the Berkshire Mountains, and which is some of the prettiest, territory you're ever going to see here. It's just a offshoot of the Appalachians itself, and it's gorgeous here. And you can't find a better setting. And then you look, at the tower here, which is now called the Skip Barber Tower. It was architecturally designed by Sam Posey, and it just maintains this whole, sort of Connecticut architectural look of, sort of the colonial period and the like. It's absolutely beautiful here. And one of the things that they take a lot of pride in is, there aren't any freeways to speak of here. A lot of it's just 2-lane road going through some absolutely stunning countryside, and they don't want it any other way. And when you get out here and experience this place a little bit, you wouldn't want it any other way either. It's gorgeous.
Oh, it is phenomenal. It makes life a little interesting hauling to the track with the trailer, but
I can imagine.
That's part of the Lime Rock charm. I had the chance to actually do a little bit of hiking Thursday morning around here, and it is absolutely wonderful.
It is.
Cars on track now for the next heat here, and I saw Mario Marone right at the pointy end of that, Greg. He's up in the mix. As we go back to take a look at the Falcon Club TR running order again, Marone's P4 at the moment, so he would like to move up into the mix. And a good mix of street GT in there as well. Connor Gallagher, I see, up there. He's currently P6 in class, so we should see some shifting and shuffling here in this session.
Yeah, and that fight for the third podium spot in GRIDLIFE Street GT is insane. From 3rd to 7th, we have 8 tenths. And, all these guys, they have the chance to improve here and get that spot.
And Aranha Prusank and Kevin Horn are all in very similar Chevrolet Camaro. So it is the same chassis going for tenths of a second here.
Yeah, tenths at Lime Rock are hard to find. It's such a short track, a little mistake can cost you big.
Well, the other thing, when you were talking about Mario Marone, he's 4th right now, and he's 0.6 off of the fast lap. That's how close Club TR is.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite cars here all weekend long.
Talk about evocative.
Yeah, it's Bill Washburn, and there's a big lockup into turn 1. I think that was the...
Oh, no, it looks like that Eclipse has an engine issue going into turn 1.
Yeah, that was Jesse Shanique in the Talon.
I hate to see that. Hopefully he can get off track and avoid.
I don't know if it's... I can't tell if it's laying down fluid or not, but... Oh, that's not Jesse. That's Paul Jakish in the 700.
Yes. Something is definitely wrong there. Oh, here we go. He's getting offline as best he can, but...
Fascinating to watch the Arrow at work with all that smoke, but he's probably going to find the cutout in the chicane.
That looks like it's coming out of the center of the wheels. I wonder if he's...
Could be a differential?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
With the those Eclipses, it is a transverse engine, so it is flipped sideways in the front, so it could possibly be an engine issue as well.
Good point.
281 of Reeves in the MX-5 is off and more. I wonder if...
So there is some moisture that you got to believe.
Yeah, black flag is at the front straightaway flag stand here, so likely some fluid and sending some cars for a ride.
And that Datsun, man, that's one of my favorite cars in this category. 1970 Datsun 240Z, and arrowed up within an inch, and it just looks stunning.
It keeps the original lines of the car, but he's still got the Aero time attack flare. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it just looks like a wicked hot rod, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I love the old box flares in the vintage cars.
Yes,
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, black flags are out. This is going to require some oil dry, I believe, and Scalar Performance has a couple of GR86s out here this weekend. One of them is an FA24 powered, normal GR86. The other is their EV swap demonstrator car, which we've seen a couple of times in the past. I don't know that that car has been on track, but it is probably up by their paddock spot. It's an EV swap GR86. A lot of it's bespoke components, but really neat because there are other championships you can actually race that car in. I believe over at NASA they have the ability to run that car there. And,
I've actually raced against it.
Oh, you have raced against it. What's that like?
It's different for sure. Not being able to hear it is interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when you're racing wheel to wheel, you're listening to the cars around you for proximity, and it makes it a little interesting.
I bet. I mean, it's a neat car, and I've got to see the inside of it. But the car that's on track here is the standard engined version, and that's running in Falcon Club TR.
I just want to point out here, as a corner worker, I'm watching the old corner worker slippery shuffle out there, and whenever there's the track is clean, seasoned corner workers go out and they just do that shuffle across the track, and believe me, you grip, and if there is moisture down and it's slippery, you hit that and you feel it immediately. And look at this, it's going to be a big cleanup because this went all the way around to, I think, the right-hander into the back straight, the Paul Newman straight. So this could be a little bit interesting here, but big opportunity here to give a huge shout out to those corner workers. All the volunteers that make an event like this possible, but the ones out in harm's way are those corner marshals that are throwing, giving the information to the drivers via flags, giving information to race control via the headsets, and just doing an absolutely great job out in the elements all day. Big shout out to them and all the volunteers.
Absolutely.
Can't do it without them.
Yeah.
This may end up being a rather large oil dry bill.
I'd anticipate that, but that's the great thing about running with GRIDLIFE is that'll fall on us. But this is one of the things you don't really know in the moment how bad the issue is. We've seen at the time. Sometimes you have to diagnose what the smoke is. I don't know that it's advisable just to have a big plume of smoke and immediately dive for the grass always, right?
Absolutely. So, especially if it's on fire, you don't always want to park in the grass.
Yeah. Sometimes it just this is what the speedy dry's for, right? So.
Yep. Well, at least this track is only a mile and a half. I was flagging a vintage race at Road America a number of years ago, and one of the guys, and I can't remember it was like an Acela or something, and looked like a small Ferrari, and the guy was absolutely on a flyer, had no clue that he had this stream of smoke coming out of the back of the car. And at Road America, they said it was 3.5 miles of oil cleanup.
Oh, wow.
It was unbelievable. And the only way that the guy realized that he had a problem, because he was so focused on his lap, was one of the corner workers threw a big blue. And he was going, how is anybody staying close to me? And looked in his mirrors, saw this massive plume of smoke coming out. But unfortunately, it was like as he entered 14. So you just oil down the whole track. So,
Well, we'll take this opportunity to step away for a few minutes and let this track cleanup get sorted. We'll be back right after this.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500. You spend thousands of hours on the road.
Can he do it again?
Feel hundreds of horses under the hood. But every race, lap, and victory you get starts at zero. New NOS Zero Sugar. Zero sugar, 100% NOS, get after it.
The Falcon Azenas RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance, engineered for predictable handling and stability. The RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenas RT660.
All warfare is the same. Two questions are of paramount importance. Who is my opponent yesterday and who is he today?
He's going to be off course, dropping tire. He's in the dirt. Looking to the inside, dives into turn one. Oh, a tire. Here's Paul Darling on Strickland to the inside of West Bend, though.
You're still watching my eyes.
I'm not sure what Kyle's vision for this was.
And welcome back to GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends on a beautiful Saturday morning. It's about to be afternoon, just shy of noon here at Lime Rock Park in Lakeville, Connecticut. Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer and Chris Drum, who's helping out again, just offered his services for us for a little while. I'm going to take advantage of that while we can, and Greg's going to take a short break. He'll be right back in a moment. But Chris, the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship has been fun so far this weekend, kind of running our old school format, but under a slight delay for a track cleanup from some oil down from an Eagle. I believe it's an Eagle Talon, right? Or is it Eclipse?
2G Mitsubishi Eclipse.
That's right.
Same generation.
Same generation car, but that laid down some oil, and that cleanup has taken a little while, so we're just about to get the next group out on the racetrack once more, including one of the drivers that is in this mix or waiting to go back out on the racetrack is Mark Brylow, who we spoke about briefly before, but Mark is sort of the mechanic and wrench up at the Gears and Gasoline shop, and I mentioned he hasn't really been on track at a GRIDLIFE in years, and he's already up in the mix running P4 in class in the street category right now in his Silver Evo.
Yeah, I actually got the chance to talk to him, I believe it was yesterday, and I mean, it was great to see him out. Just grins on the face. Ben Lynn is not driving this weekend, but he's helping out, and I mean, it's awesome to see all those guys work together.
Yeah, really cool, and just fun to have Ben supporting Mark this weekend versus Mark supporting both Bens. It's just been a lot of fun to watch, and unfortunately, I think Ben Thorne's weekend has gone a little short. I think it was an engine issue for him that will prevent him from running for the rest of the weekend. So Well, we're going to still wait a few more minutes before we turn everybody loose, but look at the paddock. This place is packed full, and it's not a huge racetrack, but the paddock isn't that small, and we have filled it entirely.
This is honestly one of the best paddocks I've been to, and I was surprised. This is my first time being here as support or competitor, and it's just an awesome paddock. And especially since you have the A paddock and the B paddock, I mean, there's more room than like CMP and most racetracks I've been to.
Yeah, and if you look up on the hillside there's the Legends Concourse, which I've never actually gotten a chance to see in my 3 years of coming here because it's a Saturday feature, and by the time we get wrapped up, those cars usually loaded out. But the focus this year is the Mazda RX-7, and some of the most significant cars from the last 20 or 30 years are parked up there. One of ones selected by Prime NYC and brought in this morning. And look at the campgrounds and the day parking. It is packed full here. If you haven't had a chance to come out to GridLife Circuit Legends, this is a must-see event.
Yeah, and you can even see from here some of the selection. I mean, you see like Evo 4, 5, 6s, Sylvia S15, Supra, is that an E30, old Integra Type R, just, I mean, beautiful cars.
Yeah, again, they're brought out. Some of these cars don't really see the light. They stay garaged all year long, and this is the one time that they get pulled out. I see a couple NSXs there on the far right as well under the tent, and just all the cars that were sort of our halo cars, our trophy cars growing up in our generation, and that's what this is about. I mean, while there's tons of car and racing history that goes back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s, this is really about the late 80s to the 90s to now, and the cars that we all grew up with playing in Forza and Gran Turismo, and it's just been a lot of fun to see this concept be so popular.
Yeah, and it really celebrates that culture, you know, like the 80s, 90s, like Euro and JDM, you know, it's pretty awesome. I saw a 190E in the paddock earlier with the full, like, Evo body kit and a full cage. Oh, it's just
I think
phenomenal.
that's FCP Euros, and it's a different wrap than it has been in the past, and it looks unbelievable. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love the DTM cars from the 90s. I've had an opportunity to go to the Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart, and they have several of them there, and it's unlike anything else.
And over there, just to the left, you see the vendor paddock there with tons of the partners and people that make this all happen. Toyo Tires is down there, NOS, Valvoline, Eibach, and many, many more that put this on. You see long lines waiting for something or somebody down there. I don't know if that's for food or for entertainment, but with all that, we're back on the racetrack here. And Chris, the thing you have to worry about fresh out of the pit lane here is that oil dry. It's not going to be super grippy the first few laps.
Yeah, and that's on the outside of Big Bend, so that'll make it a little interesting for the competitors going through there. It's definitely going to get on that left front and try to wash out the car, so they're going to have to be pretty cognizant of that.
So the majority of this run group is our street class competitors, so we'll probably focus on street for a little while. You mentioned Luca Barberas earlier, 57.65, but Joe Milkey right behind in that Subaru Impreza. 555 car, it's 3/10. That's a lot, but I think that's a time that he can catch if he really puts a lap down.
That is definitely manageable, you know, 3/10. I mean, that can be gained if he's got a hotter tune, more power, you know, a setup change. You know, these guys are constantly improving the car all throughout the weekend, so there's always a chance.
And down into the first corner here, one of the coolest cars, Sean Bassett.
I saw quite a few guys running through the oil dry on the outlap, which is honestly the smartest thing they can do. You know, you obviously don't want to get your tires dirty, but at the end of the day, it's just dust. You can wipe it off pretty easy. But, you know, you just want to clean the track off as much as possible.
Yeah, Bassett in the 240, ripping through turn 4 now. Currently scored 9th in the unlimited category. And again, I don't think this will be a personal best with the conditions as it stands, but still getting after it here on the uphill.
Yeah, I think we still might have to wait a session or two for it to get cleared off enough for people to actually start improving. That oil dry is pretty substantial.
The sound of that car is unbelievable. Down the hill into the compression here. He's got aero on this car that'll assist.
I love hearing the shifts on that car, especially we heard on the Newman straight there, just the ignition cut. It's just phenomenal.
And across the stripe for... Oh, he did improve.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
57.838.
There might be a little more grip there than we thought.
Yeah, I guess so. And again, this ticker is pulling context from heats 2, 3, 4, and this is heat 5. So this is his best lap of the weekend that he just ran.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Very impressive. Let's give him credit where credit's due there as we pull the street ticker back up on the board there just in case anybody in that category goes faster. I see Joe Milkey on pit lane, so he's going to try to get out and take the fight to Luca Barberas. Mark Brylo is on track. Silver Evo, bottom of the shot. And there is Mark Brylo, the 565, part of the Gears and Gasoline trio now. And when I saw him in the paddock the other day, he was so excited to be back driving, and he spent so much time in the winter and all through the year working on cars, building engines, putting cars back together, fixing crashed race cars, and just to spend a weekend just behind the wheel and only focusing on that has to be so much fun for him. And to also be competitive. I mean, he's got 0.7 of a second to catch Eddie Siegel, but I don't think that's impossible. I mean, it's a Civic versus an Evo here, so that's a pretty fair fight as we've seen in the past here. But we're going to get a checkered pretty quickly.
Yeah, and as we know, Ben and Ben aren't particularly easy on things mechanically, so he has had his hands full and then some.
Yeah, but I think having a good weekend like this, get it under your belt.
There's nothing like it,
Yeah, and at a racetrack like this, what an unbelievable experience. But checkered flag pretty early here, and we expected only to get a lap or two. And we'll see if anybody is able to pick up in street class on this next lap. As Nate Brown in the 994 is going to come across the stripe. And he's dealing with a turbo that he thinks is on its last legs. I'm not sure that was going to either last the weekend, or if it does, it's not going to be going the quickest. But might as well use up your tires while you can.
I mean, as long as it's not going to cause an issue, just go have fun at the end of the day. You paid for it, might as well use it.
And we just saw Bill Washburn come across the stripe in that beautiful green BMW. But with that group is done after the oiling down that we saw. So the next group that's upcoming, as you see on the racetrack here, or on the pit lane rather, Peter Gramberg is in this mix. Christian Aranja in that white Camaro. Bronson McNeamer, who had a big off at Carolina Motorsports Park earlier in the year, had to rebuild a lot of the front end of that car. So he sits and waits. Kevin Horn is in that orange Camaro. Keenan Prusenk in the 187. And that's really the meat of the Street GT battle. If you look at the standings, as we had pointed out earlier, those three drivers are sitting 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and that's how they sit on pit lane relative to each other.
Yeah, and with the way the conditions are looking, I don't really think anyone's going to be able to improve in the very last session of the day, so this might be their last chance to get that podium spot. Aranja's got that with a very thin margin right now.
Yeah, to beat the front two in the Corvettes, though, that will take a lot. Take me through the Corvette versus Camaro choice for Street GT. What's your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's power to weight at the end of the day. You have Ito and Andy. They're out here making 500 plus horsepower at the wheels. And then you have, Christian, for example. That Camaro is bone stock, other than it's got a set of dampers off the ZL11 Elite. So other than that, it's stock springs, stock bars. It's just got brake pads, tires, and no shocks.
Unbelievable.
So, they're definitely at a severe disadvantage, that, Corvette.
A couple street mod competitors to take note of in this group. Alex Moss in the 150, bringing Super K back into the mix. It's always great to see him back in the paddock.
Was stoked to see that car back out here. I've seen it when I competed in one lap of America, and it's just an awesome build. Definitely something different.
There's that green S2000 that Moss is competing in. We also noted Cal Fortner out on the racetrack. Now, there is one car missing from the street mod timing and scoring, and that is Kyle McHugh, who should be currently seated second with about a 55.1. Just because he ran it in the first heat when we didn't have the scoring catching yet. So that should knock down Santos to 3rd.
Well, actually, Santos will be 4th because Peter Liu in the first session ran a 56.0. So I believe he beat Santos there.
Got it.
So that's also another battle to pay attention to.
Yeah, we'll see if that shifts or shuffles here as Moss works up to speed in Super K. Brand new wrap on that car. Freshly green. And Cal Fortner is one of the first cars across the stripe to begin his lap. And then right behind him is Jeremy Lauder, who ran at Pikes Peak earlier this year, the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb in that same Camaro, and rolled it over in qualifying. There was a big scar on the right side A-pillar to prove it.
Yeah, but the thing is, he managed to get it fixed and still completed the hill climb.
He sure did.
That's just dedication right there.
And I think he left the scratch. You might be able to see him there right on the front of the A-pillar. He left the scratches. He didn't feel the need to fix that. That's a badge of honor.
That's a heck of a story getting those at Pikes Peak. Who can say that?
Not a lot of people. A little push there through the uphill section. Luca Barberis is in tow. And Barberis is hauling, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a lot of load on the left front tire. You have to really be careful there. It's very setup critical. You need a lot of left front camber, especially on the street tires here, to get that temperature spread optimal.
See if Fortner can pick up here this time through. Then we'll check on the street class times. No pickup for the 14.
Yeah, he's not far off what he ran though. His best of the day. His best so far is a 57.4. He just ran a 57.7 that time by, so he's not far off.
Into turn 3 for the left-hander. Al's Auto Body on the side of the car, and they have really gotten this car into a sweet spot this season. It's leading the point standings as it stands, although I'm not sure if it will stay that way if Alan Patton walks out of here with a win and a record again.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal looking car, and it's something different. That's a super cool car to see out here competing in street mod.
Big rev climb over the hill. See the rub blocks going to work there, keeping the splitter from stalling out.
Oh yeah, the front end of that car looks pretty soft. I mean, it's the splitter height's changing pretty dynamically there.
Out of the front straightaway for Cal Fortner. Is he in the green? Drops the tire at the exit at 7. Across the stripe for Fortner. Pickup.
And he improves.
57. 153.
Yeah, and that just bipped Alex Moss. Alex Moss had improved that first lap, so we'll see if he improves here.
Luca Barberis, just keeping an eye on his time. I don't think he has gone.
No, he's ran a 58.0 this session, and then his second lap was a 58.1, so he has not improved so far.
Here's another car to keep an eye on. This is Evan McLaren leading in Falcon Club TR. 58.030 is his best time, and Peter Granberg is out behind him as well, and that's the second place runner in Club TR.
Yeah, and they're running looks to be like 58.4s right now, so that'll be interesting to see.
So not far off. And that was really only their first lap. It might take a lap or two just to get back up to pace.
Yeah, and then you have to consider, though, this oil dry's still on the track, so as that cleans up, that'll also help.
And then we noticed those Street GT Camaros as well. So we'll check on Club TR this lap, and then follow that up with the Street GT battle. And here's Joe Milkey into West Bend.
Yeah, and he's not far off. We'll see what he's able to do here. He only needs 3/10.
Down through turn 7. And across the stripe comes McLaren. And McLaren, did he just pick up? I think he did.
He went with a 57.8 there. Trying to see if that's an improvement.
I think it is. 57.8. I have it as his best. No,
actually, his best was a 57.867. He just ran a 57.885.
Okay, so real close.
So talk about consistency there. We're talking hundredths of a second.
Looks like Aranha has brought his car into the pit lane.
Yeah, he's done this a few times this week. I believe that's to help the car cool off, but I believe they're about to send out the final track battle group, so I think that'll be all he's got.
They haven't checkered this one yet, so I think they're just going to hold them at pit exit, I assume. Or maybe they'll let them go. Maybe they're just going to do a... Oh, they're stopping.
Yep, here comes the checkered flag, so this will be it for that.
Couple track mod cars coming across the stripe. I wanted to see if perhaps it would be an improvement for Bronson McNeamer. And how about street class for Milky? Not quite. No improvement there.
Yeah, that was also not an improvement for McNeamer, unfortunately.
A few others coming across the stripe here.
But yeah, Fortner and Moss both improved there. So that was a good session for them.
Keenan Prustank picked up 58.279. So that, I don't know that it jumped him, but it did close in slightly on Christian Aranha for the podium spot.
Yep, correct.
And there he is.
Very impressive.
Man, that got exciting there for a minute. Lots of drivers picking up when we didn't think they would be able to.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's one of the interesting things about Street GT, as far as aerodynamics, you're very limited. You can only put aerodynamics on from cars of a different trim model, so you'll see a lot of these Camaros with the aero from like the ZL11LE and such. So no aftermarket aero allowed, but that is. So that's another advantage of choosing certain models.
Yeah, Kevin Horn still seems like he's on it right now. I don't know, I would have assumed he would have picked up the checkered already. But either he missed it or he has not. So cars rolling down the pit lane here, and we'll get set for our last group. And Ido Waxman is in this group as well. He's one of the pointy drivers in Street GT.
Yeah, as well as Andy Vogel.
Didn't look like Horn picked up at all that time. So now we wait for him to roll back around. Looks like Prusank is down the pit lane, so is Bronson McNeamer, so they'll pull off the racetrack. Now, one car that we haven't yet seen on the broadcast that we are anticipating to see, and he is on the grid here, and that is Sasha Anise, who has been the quickest car so far this weekend. If we go back to our unlimited order, 50.852 is the new GRIDLIFE overall track record here. And Sasha would normally have run this morning and try to really capitalize on the conditions, but we tried to convince him to go on a little later so we could get you on the broadcast, because this car is an unbelievable bit of tech, and it is a hybrid powertrain 350Z.
It is honestly my favorite Time Attack car across all Time Attack series. It's just absolutely awesome.
It's got so much going on in it. So it's got 30 plus more horsepower from the hybrid unit than it had last year at Lime Rock, but it's an all-wheel drive car. It has a VQ V6 that makes about 650 horsepower, and then an additional few hundred come from that electric powertrain. And a lot of this technology, the battery system is bespoke to this car, water-cooled battery unit that is done by Mountain Pass Performance. It's got a carbon drive shaft this season, a lightweight diffuser, carbon firewall, and a carbon and 3D printed aluminum front subframe brace. So this car is absolutely set up to go as fast as possible around Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, and the cool thing is it's actually based, the chassis is actually one of the original Nissan World Challenge cars from back in the day.
Is that right?
Yes, it's one of the World Challenge cars that he's
who
built
drove
this
it?
up of. I do not remember.
I probably announced it then. I'm just really curious.
But yeah, such an awesome car. And then it's got the motor controller actually out of Formula One car for the hybrid system.
So cool. Here comes Sasha East into turn one. They said yesterday the battery system was overheating. It could have run a 50.4, but it only ran a 50.8. They don't anticipate to go faster today on the used tires they've got, but they're going to give us a show.
It's such an impressive Time Attack car, especially since for Unlimited, it's low horsepower. You know, it's got a naturally aspirated Nissan V6 and the hybrid motor. I mean, it's sub 800 horsepower. When you look at people like Steven Luca making well over 1,000.
Over the crest there, all-wheel drive power from this hybrid powertrain, red 350Z through West Bend. Whoa.
Sounds so great.
That was dicey. A little traffic to contend with as well.
Yeah, and then just look at that arrow, putting the work in the downhill.
Well, it might not be a track record this time.
51.7 that time by. Oh, big lockup from the 370Z.
Hand up, yep. Saying, go ahead. I got an. He looks like he may have a little issue.
Yeah, something.
Boy, that's an interesting wing placement on that Mustang too, on that rear wing, instead of coming up straight from the back, right from the center of the frame.
Yeah, it's similar to the GT3 Mustangs they run in IMSA nowadays.
Yeah. So this is Steve Luca, and he took back Ferris Khartoumi's Mid-Ohio track record in Unlimited, and his goal is now to chase Ferris Khartoumi's times, and that to be chasing Ferris is an accomplishment anywhere,
especially in something like a Mustang versus your Corvette, which is automatically more, on the side. This is definitely way heavier than Ferris's Corvette.
This is knocking on the door of what our first track record here was with James Houghton, who set the original GRIDLIFE track record back in 2022 as a 52.3. He's not that far off from that record.
No, not at all.
Although Sasha has since eclipsed that quite a ways.
Incredible speed down the front straight.
As far as the Unlimited rear-wheel drive record, though, I guess Sasha's car technically was rear-wheel drive.
It is rear-wheel drive, yes. The hybrid motor for that is actually in the bell housing.
Ah, okay.
And so he doesn't need a starter for the car. He just uses the motor.
That's fascinating.
I was just watching. I didn't see what was the car behind this guy right here, just coming through the diving turn. He carried a slide through that turn and two major corrections and hung on to it to save the lap.
Oh, and Kyle McHugh improved in track mod. He ran a 54.6 that first lap. So, he is 300th off Brad Perkins for that first position in track mod, which that's crucial for the season points championship.
Yeah, it's really tight here. Sasha comes back through, again, still running pretty quick times, but not quick enough.
Luca just improved with that session, but not overall. That was a 53.6 that time by. And here comes Patton down the front stretch.
This will be a street mod time. We'll pull up the street mod ticker just in time to see if he improves.
He must have caught some traffic there and backed off because that was a 102.
Here comes McHugh again in track mod. Let's see if this goes faster still.
They must have caught the traffic because I see definitely some gaps that are created there.
Sasha has backed it down. I think standing yellow flag there at the uphill as well.
Wonder if there's something there.
I thought I saw maybe someone pulled off to driver's left.
We've seen a few incidents up the uphill this weekend, so
yeah,
it's definitely a tricky place when the car unloads.
But you got to have that car absolutely straight and pointed to the track as you come over that straight, because if it doesn't, it's going to be a big moment, one way or the other.
You're along for the ride at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sasha's back on it, it looks like.
Sounds absolutely phenomenal, that V6. You know, the Nissan VQ has the reputation for being a little drony, but in a race application like this, you know, 600 horsepower one of those is no slouch.
Ooh, little bobble
little
there.
Bit of slide. Oh, and we are full course yellow now.
Yeah,
must be an issue.
I think I thought I saw a car at the top of the hill, kind of off to driver's left, like it had parked there.
Yeah. Here comes Patton down the pit, so I believe he is done for the session. I don't think. I'm not sure they'll be able to get this back resumed.
And see where we're going necessarily.
Well, I got to tell you, I think that Anis's car has become my second favorite all-time track battle car.
What's your favorite?
Oh, the Judd Formula One
Turk's
engine.
car?
Ryan Turk's car? I mean, nothing sounds
No
like
one's
that
going to
thing
blame you
is
for
just magic.
No one will blame you for that opinion, I bet.
Exactly.
Well, with that, the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship heats, I think, will likely come to a close here, at least for this session. Of course, we've got one more that we'll have broadcast a bit later today. But we'll wrap things up here and be ready again for the remainder of the day. And it is going to be a long remainder of the day from 1:30 all the way to about 6:20. We'll have coverage of GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Race 3, Drift. We've got Model 3 Challenge, a couple of heats of that coming later today. And, of course, Greg, the return of Rush SR for their 2 races. They put on an amazing show yesterday.
Oh, it was absolutely spectacular. And, the battle, for the lead was superb. Ryan Leach hanging on for dear life with that car, super loose everywhere around here. It was spectacular. You're not going to want to miss that, folks.
Well, with the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship heats are we going to go back green?
They're going back green.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, they might have fooled us.
Yeah, they did.
They pulled a sneaky on us.
Oh, well.
Tricky.
And, Fokal's right back into it.
And there goes Peter Lou by.
Okay. We lied. We have 4 more minutes. The stream team, I know they're all rolling their eyes. Lunchtime, guys. Not quite. Let's get a few more minutes of this. And see if we can, Vocal, it's on track, a few others, so we'll see if we can get at least one more hot lap in here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what car had an issue that they recovered. I saw tow trucks out on track, so.
Well, I saw a car that was in the chicane red, fairly short when I couldn't pick out what it was. So I wonder if he was the car that had the problem and then was able to continue and keep on going, because this was way too fast for them to have to make some sort of recovery.
Oh, Sasha's even going back out. Why not? Gosh, that car makes such great sounds. Oh. It's not quite the Judd V10, but it's not far
but
off.
it's about as close as I've heard. That is spectacular.
Oh, we got airborne there, too.
We did. Which is impressive with the front downforce thing. The splitter looks pretty unimpressive from the outside, but you look underneath all the tunnels, I mean, it's super trick.
Yeah, from the outside, this car's aero looks somewhat subtle.
It's almost like a GT3 car in a way.
But aggressive on the underside, that's for sure. Wow.
Oh, he improved.
Whoa, 50.686 for Sasha Anis. Where did that come from?
He just needed to cool those tires for a minute.
And that's a new GRIDLIFE overall track record here.
It sure is. Out of nowhere. And he's still on it, too.
Wow.
Hey, he's whipping it now. He feels good now. He's been throttling back up and trying again.
Yeah, and you can hear the Motec track control working away there. A little bit of ignition cut on corner exit.
All right, now you got my attention, Sasha. Wow.
He is flogging it.
Oh, he's in the dirt.
There's nothing left right there. We'll see what he can do.
Checkered flag. Can Sasha Anis one-up himself again? 50.686 is a new track record. Will it be enough to go faster again? Not quite.
50.8. I mean, 2 laps. It's absolutely phenomenal there by him.
That was cool.
Unused tires.
What a show.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you guys were saying?
Yeah, he's running a Michelin, I believe it's a S8M.
So that little cool down during that caution, one gave him a gap.
So I'd say that might have helped him out a big time.
Wow, that was cool.
Oh, Jamie Santos just improved with the 56.1.
Wow. So lots of shuffling. We did not anticipate this, but the cloud cover, I think, has helped.
Absolutely.
Bring the track temp down and bring the intensity up. And there's still a few more. Andy Sal when improved again.
Here comes Peter
Lou, and no pickup there.
Nope.
All right. Well, I'm glad we went back live for a few minutes.
Yeah,
perfect.
See a
They
new
almost
outright
fooled us.
track record for track battle here. Heck yeah.
That is an incredible lap. I mean, we're knocking on the door now. I mean, we still a few more tenths to get there, but sub 50.
Yeah.
Which is impressive in any era. But with that, the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship Heat 5 is complete, correct? Final thoughts?
I was just going to say, he just a 50.6, right?
Yep.
The outright record's a 45. He's 5 seconds off of those the GTP Toyotas that destroyed that series. That is remarkable.
Really neat stuff, and we're going to get to see it hopefully on track one more time here this afternoon with the final heat of the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. But let's take a break, and we'll be back if you're on
real
this time. If you're on YouTube, the stream will pick back up with GLTC Race 3. If you are on Twitch or Facebook, you can hang out, watch a lock off, and we'll see you on the other side of lunch. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500. You spend thousands of hours on the road.
Can he do it again?
Feel hundreds of horses under the hood. But every race, lap, and victory you get starts at zero. New NOS, zero sugar. Zero sugar, 100% NOS, get after it.
The Falcon Azenas RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance, engineered for predictable handling and stability. The RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenas RT660.